Now, Adib Saani is a security analyst and he joins us via Zoom. Mr. Saani, so the police and electoral commission were commended after a smooth running of the polls on December 7 itself. But did they do enough to prevent the violence during the collation?
Well, Daniel, it is an incontrovertible fact that this is perhaps one of the, if not the most well-organized elections in Ghana since the inception of the Fourth Republic. As a matter of fact, a lot of work went into it. We all played a major role as civil society. Different levels were engaged by different actors. We've been around the country to get as many people as involved in the process. But you see, Daniel, if you study critically the security mechanisms that were deployed before and during the elections, trust me, it was by the book. It was crisp, and it is the National Election Security Task Force did almost everything that it had to do so far as security is concerned. The unfortunate thing is we seem not to have had a post-election security strategy, because I understand that immediately after the election, all officers who were deployed, over 62,000, were asked to return to base. And I think almost all of them were given 1 or 2 days leave. The erroneous belief that so far as the election is over, everything is going to be normal. But you see, from my years of practice and study and research into election security in sub-Saharan Africa, from Kenya to Ivory Coast to Nigeria in 2003, Zimbabwe, Uganda, etc., I've come to one realization. The most precarious of all times of the 3 election security stages is post-election, because that is when the counting happens. That is when contentious issues come up, with some people crying foul, with some people becoming frustrated about the whole process and might want to vent their frustration through belligerent means. So I expected that the security would rather be enhanced after the election. Unfortunately, we let our guards down. We went to sleep, and it was a free-for-all. That is why we're experiencing all of that is happening. I think it's a dereliction of duty. And if we had maintained the security protocols, we would have been able to prevent some of these violence from even happening.
Now, you are often quoted as saying, Mr. Saani, that everywhere is a hot spot, but we did see the security agencies earmark specific places where they should pay more attention. Techiman South was not among them. This is what we are told. Is this another error on the side of the police?
Well, I remember I was on your show recently, and we spoke about Yagaba Kubori, which actually is not also a hotspot. But the IGP was very categorical on his 4th November press conference that all areas are going to be treated as hotspots. You see, a lot goes into it. Apart from the intelligence that is sourced from the area, we look at the history of violence of that area. And we also have other partners. We have different institutions like my alma mater, Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping and Training Center, and even WANEP, ECOWAS and all that, establishing what we call early warning signs that also feeds into the determination of whether an area is a hotspot or not. So I wouldn't say it's an error, because security is dynamic. It is a process. It's not an event. Things change when you least expect. But what you should rather be doing is to put certain mechanisms in place, so when some of these things change, it is not going to hit you as a shock, but you would have the mechanisms deployed to mitigate its effect. Unfortunately, that is not exactly what we saw in this situation. But of particular concern to me is the issue of accountability. Daniel, when there's no accountability, we would only be succeeding in doing one thing and one thing only: bastardizing, throwing to the bin the civil security relations, which is extremely critical so far as the management of security of the state is concerned. I can see bitter people. I can see bitter families. These are not just numbers. These are human beings, for crying out loud. So we cannot afford to make it look like, oh, it's one of those things and that's it. And it's particularly peculiar with the security services in Ghana. I remember some years ago, a gentleman was beaten by the police somewhere around Kofom in Kumasi. He died. And the autopsy report said he died of a heart attack. But what happened before the heart issues came up? So you see, when things happen this way, it distorts. It creates some kind of a discord between the people and the security services.
Right.
Trust me, without the people taking part in the security management process, the police, the military, immigration, none of them would be able to effectively live up to their mandate. And that, I must say, is dangerous. It is time the police take this as a window of opportunity to investigate all that happened. I've been following Joy News. I saw you do a comprehensive reporting on even the police officer holding the gun, the trajectory, where he pointed the gun at him firing and all that. Even if the police cannot do it, they can rely on the media to give them some of these information, the footage. And that could help to a very large extent in uncovering what really happened.
Right. Mr. Saani, so you make three very important points. The first being there was a weakening of the security protocols post the election. The second being it's possible Techiman South police officers were not prepared for what happened. And the third being that police must be held accountable. But my question is, should this accountability be extended to the hierarchy? Should we be seeing the regional commander or possibly even higher
Daniel,
take
I didn't hear your last
responsibility?
part.
I'm asking if the top hierarchy of the police service should be taking responsibility for this. Officials like the regional commander or even higher.
Of course. I mean, positions comes with assets and liabilities. Unfortunately, that is not what we see in this part of the world. But really, if accountability exists based on certain principles and a constitutional democracy, we expect that some people in position of responsibility, some people financed by you and I, who exhibit certain inefficiencies, be held to account. Unfortunately, that is not what we see. And to harness the relationship between the civilians and the security services, there needs to be accountability. Ghana currently, I must say, is sharply divided. A lot of people are so frustrated about what is going on. A lot of people feel cheated. And a lot of them also at the same time feel they've been denied justice. And you cannot progress as a country when all of these principles is non-existent. So from the very bottom to the very top, even at the IGP level, okay, if they have to be held accountable, they have to be done. That has to be done, but that can only happen through an unbiased, progressive, effective, and efficient investigation into what happened. Sometimes it becomes a bit of an issue when you ask the police to investigate the police. It's just like you being asked to investigate your mom or your dad. That human element still plays. But as professional as they are, I expect, considering the level of confidence and trust we have bestowed in them, to conduct that investigation in an unbiased fashion. So in the end, we all get to know the truth, and whoever is culpable should be brought to book according to the law. Then confidence would be restored in one way or the other in the security services.
But even at this point, from what we know, Mr. Saani, some argue that it's a failure of the leadership, and so they must be sanctioned immediately.
Well, of course, obviously, like I said, we had some failures at the very top, because when you look at the police structure, it is very command-based, okay? And I have in the past expressed opinions about the lack of efficient training to ensure officers at the very bottom taking certain decisions without recourse to the top. But it's still the old way, you know, the bureaucratic way of doing things. So you would expect that a lot of these actions that happen on the ground comes from the very top, okay? If an impartial investigation is carried out, and I'll suggest that it should go beyond the police, we could even involve officials of the National Intelligence Bureau and even perhaps civil society to look into this. And if in the end it is found that the orders came from above, which shouldn't have been the case, perhaps with respect to exactly what was done on the ground, whoever is found culpable must be dealt with.
Right.
We are a country that is governed by the rule of law. We have procedures and processes to follow. But when we allow this to pass, we might also be succeeding in establishing a very, very dangerous precedence with respect to the culture of impunity. Because a lot more Ghanaians will begin to feel that in Ghana, you can do these things, you can kill and be left off the hook. So obviously, if A did it and was left off the hook, if I also do it, I'll be left off the hook. And
Mr. Saani,
I think that wouldn't be good enough.
We are very, very grateful, Adib Saani, for joining us this morning here on News Desk. And we'll move on from the story currently.